Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. I'm very excited to be here with you, and I have an amazing guest, and that is Mark Friesen. He is a Grizzly Patriot, and I don't know what that means. Is it like he's like, "Arr," is that what it is? Big bear, he's grizzly. I don't know. I think so. So before I get started, I always love to read from my dad's Bible and see what he underlined in all these pages. In this one, it's got another little note he'd put in there, a little tiny. It's all in red. It's got more scriptures on it because my dad he loved to like cross reference everything. So I looked down today, and here's the verse of the day. Okay, so it's found in Genesis 2, at the beginning of time. Genesis 2, verse 18. And the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet." And that was woman. Woman became man's helpmeet. And well, yeah, it says meat though because it's old English. I know it's kind of embarrassing. Like we're a helpmeet. Why do you think they call us a piece of meat sometimes, right? Isn't it terrible? Okay, sorry. Wow, very blasphemous today. Mark Friesen, let's have him on. Something very exciting is going on over there in Saskatchewan. And I appreciate, hey, good to see you. You're looking real grizzly there. Is that why you're the Grizzly Patriot? How did that come about?
Very, very, very blasphemous today, Laura-Lynn.
I know. We're God made God made man a helpmeet. uh,
Yes. Yeah.
I know. I know. It's just
Thankfully, where would we be without you?
I know, right? I know. I
Right.
appreciate that. And you and I are on the
Hmm?
same page. Men are men and women are women. God made a
Yes,
man, then
they
he made a
are.
woman, right? And they are not
Right.
interchangeable.
100%.
No.
So we could procreate.
Yes, yes. And it all works out so perfectly, right? If we don't have
It
that, then we
does. It
don't
does.
have a society that
Right.
continues.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, so you've been on quite a few broadcasts lately, talking about something really incredible that has inspired you, and
Yeah.
you're going to tell us about it. And I don't know if it's just for Saskatchewan or is it for the country or what?
It's for the country. It's for the people. Um, so me and Salim have been talking quite regularly about our Constitution or lack thereof, and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that isn't worth the paper it's written on. And so we discovered, obviously, Salim's known this for a long time, being a history professor and a political science professor. But there is a way to amend our existing Constitution. Now, for 165 years, since it was given to us by the British by the British system, um, it has never recognized we the people. It has never represented we the people. It's always put the parliament and the provincial governments in the position of sovereignty and supremacy over the people, which is the British system. So essentially, we've been serfs and slaves to this parliament for our entire existence because our constitution does not reflect in any way the will of the people. So, what we're suggesting through this amending formula that was created in 1981, rolling into 1982, is an amending formula that allows us to amend the existing constitution. And the first thing that we want to do with this is we want to amend the preamble where it says the supremacy of God and the rule of law, but then go on to add 7 words, derived by the will of the people. That it's never said that, it's never represented the people, believe it or not. And then from that, once we can make effectively make that change, then we want to repeal section 1 and section 33 from the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which again, those two sections put the supremacy into the hands of the parliament and the provincial legislatures rather than into the hands of the people, where it should have always been. And so, if you look at even my own experience in the last 3 years has really done a phenomenal job of exposing the weakness of our Constitution and the weakness of our Charter and Rights and Freedoms. And so we want to bolster that. We want to bring actual inalienable rights to the people so that they cannot be abridged and cannot be limited at any whim of government. And so, even in my own case, for example, I have 11 tickets. Most of them are for gathering outside without wearing a mask and with more than 10 people. In my case, the government has never, and in Section 1, it says that the government is obliged and obligated to demonstrably justify limiting our rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Not one government has done that. Not one government has demonstrably justified any of the measures or mandates that they put in place. The reason why they haven't is because our justice system understands exactly where the sovereignty and the supremacy lies in our charter and in our constitution, and that's with Parliament. And there was a ruling actually in Saskatchewan that said the Court of King's Bench came out with a ruling that determined that the Saskatchewan government does not have to live up to their obligation under Section 1, where they have to demonstrably justify the measures and mandates that they put in place, limiting our charter rights. And so for them to do this, it blatantly shows that the supremacy and sovereignty lies with the provincial governments and the federal government and Parliament. And so we want to change that. And there is a mechanism to change that. And that mechanism is called the amending formula. And so again, we want to change the preamble to reflect the will of the people. And then we want to repeal Section 1 and Section 33. Once we accomplish those things, those are the first 3 steps to all of this. That opens the door for us to potentially create a delegation of people from every province across this country to effectively create a new constitution. And that's the path that we want to take this. Now, of course, there's a process in all of this. The amending formula dictates that we need 7 provinces with 50% or more support in each of those 7 provinces. We think we can get there. Not that it's going to be easy, but with some education and really driving home this idea that people really don't have inalienable rights. What they have is privileges that are given to them through this British system of governance. And so we want to bolster, we want to change our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We want to change our Constitution, that it's derived by the will of the people, and that the people are sovereign and supreme for the first time in this country, and that our rights are actually inalienable, God-given rights. And that's something we've never had in this country. And the last 3 years has done a really good job of exposing our Constitution and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And so I'm very excited about this. There is a declaration that was created by a fellow by the name of Brenton Froelich out of Peachland in BC, and he presented it to Salim as a 15-page document. Salim worked with him to bring it down to what it is today, a 4-page document. If I had more time, I'd love to read it on your program, but unfortunately, I don't have that time today. But people can download it. It's on the Buffalo Party website. It's on a group on Facebook called True North Declaration is the group. And then you can find it also on my website, the ffcs.info website. The tab is Buffalo Freedom. So what has to happen moving forward is provincial parties like the Buffalo Party in Saskatchewan. We are the first party to adopt this declaration. We are going to be putting it forward to our members to adopt it as Buffalo Party policy at our AGM April 1st and 2nd. So we're the first party to really embrace this. The Independence Party of Alberta is going to be presenting it to their members April 1st and 2nd as well, for the members to vote on. And I've talked to a number of alternative parties across this country that are very interested in this declaration and looking at presenting it to their members as well. And again, it's this point where the Buffalo Party is going to adopt this as policy if the members ratify this at our AGM. And moving forward, um, the Buffalo Party doesn't necessarily have to win government for us to put this forward. What we need is the people to get behind it and help drive this and give it support. It's something like, if the Buffalo Party's talking about this and exposing the weaknesses of our existing Constitution and Charter of Rights and Freedoms, then if we inspire enough people in Saskatchewan that the percentage of support is greater than 50%, then we can tell our existing ruling party that we have this support for amending the Constitution to put the power into the hands of the people for the very first time in this country. And so, with that kind of support provincially, you can dictate to your provincial governments what they're going to do and what they're going to push forward. And this is going to be the case, in a lot of provinces across this country, and we hope, alternative parties adopt this and they help educate their population as to, the effectiveness of this change and what it really means. I We struggle to to find that there will be any opposition from the people. I think at the end of the day, the people would like nothing more than to have inalienable rights, God-given rights represented in the Constitution for the first time ever. And to have a constitution that's actually representative of the will of the people. So I don't think it's going to be a terribly tough sell to the people. Um, Again, it's not like this isn't going to have opposition. The establishment governments, the federal government, provincial governments are probably going to oppose this because they love the power that they're given through a constitution that doesn't reflect the will of the people. And so we're very excited about this. We're very, I read the declaration at every town hall that I'm at now, and it gets, great reviews. It gets great response. And it's something that I think, once people grasp this idea that they've never been fully represented, anywhere you look in the Constitution, nowhere does it say we the people. Nowhere. So it's really something quite special, and I encourage people to read the declaration. I also encourage people to read sort of the history, the historical context that gives this credence that Salim has put together. It's on our vlog on the website ffcs.info, where the Constitution is broken. Other than the will of the people can change this and fix it. And so that's what we're up to. That's what we're doing, and we're pretty excited. We're looking forward to moving this forward and creating a constitution that reflects the will of the people, and represents the people, and backs up their God-given inalienable rights.
I love it, Mark. And ironically, I was just listening to an interview with Tucker Carlson, which I've never heard Tucker Carlson interviewed. And it's from about 5 months ago, I found out. And I was surprised by a few things. One is he's quite dyslexic. And that was very shocking to me because he is so brilliant. And he's, the host, and he's obviously reading and putting
Sure.
together his thoughts. I mean, he's just amazing, and he's dyslexic, so that was interesting. But he was talking about why he loved America and how America is no longer the country that he grew up in. And as he was talking, I was thinking, it's not Canada is not the country I grew up in either. Like, it's not the same as when we grew up. We all had this sense that we were in a place of safety, that we were important, that we were Canadian, and we loved our back bacon and saying A and doing all that kind of stuff. And we just felt safe. And I resonated with some of the things he was saying is that everything's changed. We've like nothing makes sense anymore. Common sense is out the window. We want to defund the police. We want to let criminals out running around. Our borders are seeming to be open. Nobody's really caring about that. And men can be women, women can be men. Completely unscientific, no sense to it whatsoever. And yet the world's just gone stark raving mad. And one of the things he said when he grew up, he had such a sense of being an American. And I was thinking about the contrast between what he said and being a Canadian. And I'm a dual citizen, but have spent my life in Canada, not the United States. And so he was saying that because he was American, he knew that he had rights, and you can't treat me that way. And if you're a police officer, you need to respect the fact that I'm an American citizen and that everybody's equal. Doesn't matter about your race, ethnicity, origin, anything like that, your religion, nothing matters. But it matters that you're American. And I was thinking about Canada. And we don't necessarily have the we the people thing, do we? Because they just threw my pen.
We don't.
We the people is more like something that you'd hear the Americans stand for, and we need that because they've disrespected us at every turn of the road, haven't they? I don't know if any of us think that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is worth the paper it's written on anymore after what just happened to us.
It's not. And so many of us across this country have played a role in this, have played a role in exposing to the rest of us that our Constitution doesn't reflect the will of the people and that our Charter of Rights and Freedoms are not inalienable rights. They are privileges granted to you by Parliament that can be abridged and can be limited at the whim of government. They've shown us this the last 3 years, not only in the last 3 years and leading up to the convoy and the Emergencies Act being put into place, and our rights being trampled, literally trampled by horses, bludgeoned our rights in that occasion, but also in 1970 with the War Measures Act that took away our rights as written in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So people really need to grasp that the government is sovereign and supreme in this country. The people are not. They're not represented. And the very, very quick fix to all of this is to have a constitution, again, where you add the 7 words derived by the will of the people, and then repeal Section 1 and Section 33. We do those things, and all of a sudden, we'll have inalienable rights again. We'll have God-given inalienable rights. And that doesn't mean there isn't going to be challenges along the way as we progress through this process. There will, because again, as I said, there will be opposition to this because the establishment loves the power that they're given through our existing constitution that was given to us by a British system that loves the power that they have for themselves.
Yeah. Think of
And
Trudeau.
we're essentially a satellite, right?
He doesn't want
exactly.
we the people. He wants we the
No,
government. We the Parliament get to
course.
do this and that and that. He
Yes,
doesn't want we the
yes.
people having any more power for, oh, you think that you have bodily autonomy? My body, my choice. Oh, no, that was for yesterday. That's not for anymore, Unbelievable.
And the beauty of this, Laura-Lynn, is I like to refer to this as our own 1776 without having to fire a shot.
Right.
Because the amending of formula exists. And we can do this by the will of the people. We can achieve this. We can do this. It's in there. And so this is something that we're doing within the system. We're not doing it from outside the system. We're not moving us toward a violent revolution. We're actually able to do this just by inspiring and motivating people to support this and getting behind it, Because again, I can't imagine anybody in this country not wanting inalienable rights that cannot be abridged by government for any reason.
I agree with
This is
you,
enormous.
except for those people that are they're currently wearing masks because they heard something
Yeah,
about Marburg virus coming. You know what I mean? They're all down in
100%.
in Vancouver, right? Like, loo. I mean, it's just nuts, right? They're putting
Well,
their masks. They
there are
haven't even been
communists.
asked, right?
There are
Those
communists that
people.
love the warm embrace of government. Sure,
Right. Those
but
people
you know,
will not probably be supportive of we the people at all. They're, we the people, what do we know? We don't know anything. We have to rely on the government to tell us everything. You know, how did I know how to put on a mask? And, you know, I had to do what the government told me to do, and it's worked out so well. I mean, oh, like
well, so
clueless.
and part of the other opposition to this will be the legal establishment because they make a ton of money off the existing Charter of Rights and Freedoms, off the existing Constitution. They
Why is
love
that?
that system because that's how they make their money, right? Because
Why?
they get
Because
to
it's
argue this
right. They get to argue
because they
because
get
it's
to
so
argue in court. They get to
ambiguous. Yeah.
they get to right. They get to represent their clients who are forced into this system where again the government and the provincial governments are supreme and sovereign, and so you fight this fight, you pay the money that it takes to have good representation in the court of law, but the whole system is stacked against us because we don't have a system that reflects the will of the people or protects our inalienable rights. We don't have that in this country, and we need to have it.
So, Mark, I was just interested. I know you have to go because you have a speaking engagement tonight, but
Yes.
how it works, is it already a provision within our constitution or something that this is how you can get something passed? And remind me again, you need 50% and of each province or what?
You need seven provinces at 50% support, and you achieve that most likely through a referendum, and again the people can drive this, regardless of who your government is. If there's more than 50% support in seven of these provinces, then of course that's going to be enough to move the needle to get your government to do what they want you to do or what we
So,
want them to do.
so do you have to
And
have a campaign of going door to door or what? How do we get this done?
well, obviously there's going to be some education involved in this. Obviously, the Buffalo Party is going to embrace this. We've put it to our members to vote on it. We're going to have it as policy for our party, and in that, we're going to be able to educate and tour the province and educate the people in regards to our constitution as it exists today and its shortcomings, and how we can improve it to ensure that your inalienable rights are protected and defended by making this amendment. It was Brian Peckford actually who authored the amending formula that gives us this opportunity. And understand, this has never been done in the history of our country. This has never been looked at. The declaration has never been made as it's being made now. This is the first time in history that we're going to amend the Constitution to reflect the will of the people. That's incredibly powerful.
I think it's great. And Lee Harding's on the line, and he's kind of in the comments here. So a big hello to you from Lee.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, Lee did a Lee,
yeah,
Lee
he
did
did
an
an
article
article.
in the Western Standard about this. Yeah,
Right. It's up on his
and
Substack,
we
Lee
appreciate
Harding
it.
Substack.
Oh,
Probably
okay,
at
very
Lee
good.
Harding or no. Anyways, find it. LEE. Yeah, we'll put it in the description. Because yeah, he gets what's happening, what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
I'm
love
very
it.
encouraged. I'm very excited about this, and like as I said, every town hall I'm at, I read the declaration, and people it resonates with everybody there, and it's something I think that won't be terribly tough to get mass support for giving people inalienable rights and a constitution that reflects the will of the people.
Do you,
It just seems so basic to me.
Yeah. Do you think, before I let you go, do you think we have populace rising in our country?
Yes,
Is it happening?
most
Yeah,
definitely. Most
I think
definitely.
so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And I think there's a spiritual um,
I was just going to ask you
rejuvenation as
about
well.
that. Yes.
Yeah,
There's
I
as
really
well
think
as
there is.
the people are getting excited to fight back. We were in complacency for so long, but then there's also
Yes.
this spiritual aspect. Are you seeing that as you're out and
Oh
about?
yeah,
Right.
absolutely, 100%. Yep.
Well, I just want to pat
Because
myself on the
because
back for helping you to
in tough
understand that.
times, like we're in,
Yep.
and it's going to get tougher. People are drawn. People are drawn to God. People are drawn
Yes,
to,
they are.
you know, spirituality and faith because they understand that tough times um, are not fun and not comfortable. And the best community that you can have is a community built on faith and built on spirituality. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that in Saskatchewan. We're seeing that in Alberta and Manitoba. And generally in rural areas more so than in the cities. But that it is what it is.
Mark, do you
It has
feel
to
like,
start somewhere.
yeah, last question, final question, before a few more
Yeah.
that I have for you. But do you feel like your whole spiritual life has changed since you had such a close call with death? Like, did that change you?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. 100% it did. No question. It's that whole experience brought me a lot closer to God. And I mean, and that's not to say I didn't have a relationship with God before, and I always prayed. I just, I just, I didn't feel it as intensely as I feel it since I came out of that experience, and that whole experience has brought me a lot closer in my relationship with God. Not necessarily to the church, but but definitely in my relationship with God, it has no question about it.
It's time for a new church to arise in Canada. Not the
I
same
believe
old
so.
that failed us. And
Yes,
God bless the
I believe
churches
so.
that stood, but it was like 1%. The rest of them
Yes,
were holding vax clinics in the basement and telling everyone to worship God. Don't sing out loud. Put
right.
your
And
mask
and
on.
taking those silver pieces from the government.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you start serving mammon,
Mm.
and you
Right,
just lose sight of like what
right.
I just can't even believe it. Some of
Mm.
the key leaders of our world spiritually, yeah, take the vax. Jesus would. Whatever. Oh,
Right,
Jesus that healed the lepers. Oh, Jesus that
yeah,
healed the blind man.
right,
He would take
right.
the thing that doesn't has proven not to
He would
even
he
work.
wouldn't take he wouldn't take the juice. Jesus was the original rebel.
Yeah, no juice for Jesus. All right. Wow, so much blasphemy going on, eh? That's a T-shirt right there. That's a tweet,
Right. No
right?
juice for Jesus. That's right.
Oh, well, it is so good to see you. And I do see the hand of God on your life, Mark. And I see you out there speaking to
Hmm.
the people. And I really appreciate you bringing this to us. People will want to know, and I'm sure you'll be telling them on your broadcast and all of that, how they can help, like the grassroots movement to
100%.
really help you get it
Yeah.
done. We want to be there.
Just the easiest way to help is to spread the declaration. Share it with your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, your family. Just share it with everybody. Give them an opportunity to read it and watch the expression on their face. Because the first time I read the declaration, I got to be honest with you, I was in a hotel room and I choked up. And then I read it to a group of people sitting around the breakfast table, and I choked up again as I read it because it really resonates with anybody who cherishes the values of Western civilization, the values of freedom, liberty, justice, sovereignty, equality under the law, the rule of law, prosperity, and truth. And those are all of the values that are under attack by the globalists. So
Yes.
we really have to we spread this declaration, spread it around, watch people as they read it, how it resonates with them, and just spread the message. That's it. It's so easy.
Fantastic. I love it, Mark.
Mm.
Be blessed in
Thanks.
your
I gotta
meeting
go.
tonight. Take care. And
Thank you.
just one more question. No, I'm just kidding. I'll let you go. Thanks, Mark. Take care.
God bless.
God bless.
Take
Bye
care,
bye.
everyone.
Bye. Oh, hey, I get a little bit. I get a little bit on my funny side because hanging out with Mark for all those months that we were on the road, that was really fun. I don't know if it was months; it was a few weeks, eh? JT was there, and we just absolutely loved it. It got to be quite a camaraderie going on there. We had Kayleen on the road with us, Sean Taylor, Salim Mansour, different times, Dr. Stillwagon. We had Dr. Hodkinson sometimes, and it was really amazing. So I will tell you at the end of our show today as well about the great opportunity we have for our events coming up. That will be Calgary, April the 15th at Southside Victory Church. Amazing. Pastor Craig Baroker opening the doors for us to be able to be there. And then we will be in Red Deer, and that is at a place that I'll know by the end of the name of it by the end of the show. And then we're going to be in Vancouver, British Columbia, actually in the Surrey area on that at a golf course on 152nd. And we want you to get your tickets early because we have got Dr. Artis coming in, Dr. Naputi. We've got Dr. Makis. We've got Dr. Byram Bridle. We've got Dr. Bonnie Millard. All in person. It is going to be spectacular. So I look forward to seeing you all of you there. Today, let's just start going through some things. We know in Canada, a lot of angst going on in the Liberal Party. We've got Member of Parliament Han Dong, who has now stated that he will be running as an independent, and he's going to step down from the Liberal Party, probably to alleviate some of the pressure now on our Prime Minister, because it certainly looks like CSIS was informing him that there was nonsense and hanky-panky and injustice going on behind the scenes, and our Prime Minister did not listen to him. And so now this MP is stepping into a role being an independent Member of Parliament. Take a look.
I rise on a point of order. I have informed the Prime Minister and the leadership of the Liberal Party caucus that I will be sitting as an independent at the conclusion of these remarks. Mr. Speaker, I'm in your hands as to what happens next. To all my colleagues in the Parliament, media reports today quoting unverified and anonymous sources have attacked my reputation and called into questions my loyalty to Canada. Let me be clear. What has been reported is false, and I will defend myself against these absolutely untrue claims. But let me assure you, as a parliamentarian and as a person, I have never, and I will never, would never advocate or support the violation of the basic human rights of any Canadian, of anyone, anywhere, period. The accusations are false. My family came to Canada for freedom. And to my family, and in particular, my parents, who brought us here to Canada. To my wife, Sophie, and my kids, I love you. I thank you for all the support and love you give me. The truth will protect us. Our honor and our family will get through this together. Sorry about that. Thank you, Speaker.
Well, I have to say that I'm a softie, so when somebody gets all emotional and apologetic, the first thing I'd like to do is to be able to believe them. However, in our Liberal Canada, with our mainstream media sold out to standing behind everything that the Liberal government does or says, with CSIS at times seeming to want to support the government nonstop, to find out in hindsight that CSIS was literally warning the Prime Minister that Han Dong was in collusion with China. There have been further allegations coming out that he actually requested that the two Michaels be kept in jail longer in China. I can't even imagine being the mother or family member of those boys, finding out that anyone for political reasons would request that Canadian citizens be kept in jail, in a Chinese jail, for 1 day longer than they needed to. So there's some questions and there's some answers that need to be made. Well, now we have our Prime Minister Trudeau, who seems to be an expert at not answering yes or no questions. He can't seem to do that. Neither can Chrystia Freeland, as we've seen. And, Trudeau would be, quite excellent at doing some sort of course at how to say a lot without saying anything at all. This is him now, and he seems to be the ultimate shyster. Here's a state of what you'll get when you listen to the Prime Minister. Take a look.
Did you know that there was interference in those elections? Not prior to, but during that campaign. Were you made aware that there was interference?
We put together a panel so that that question could be looked at, not by political leaders and parties who were all briefed up before the election and after the elections. And it's the experts who get to make that decision. Now, what was known and what was acted on, those are kinds of questions that involve highly sensitive issues of national security, which is where a public inquiry doesn't necessarily get into that, whereas the panel of parliamentarians that we have that have got top secret clearance to look into it in our NSI committee is from all different parties, get to look into that.
It's exhausting, isn't it? All right, so Ottawa, in a special committee on the Canada People's Republic of China relationship, Monk Fellow Christian Leprecht educates Liberal MP Rob Oliphant on Chinese influence in the WHO. Take a look.
In your testimony tonight, you said international organizations are being suborned by the PRC to the detriment of Canada's interests. Can you name those and exactly show us how that is happening?
Yes, one good example is the World Health Organization. Chinese influence and interference in the World Health Organization is publicly documented since 1953. Those of us who understand how the organization works knew from the beginning that intelligence coming out of the World Health Organization with regards to the pandemic should be taken with a grain of salt. And if we had done that, I think our countries would have reacted differently.
And if you
It's a whole lot of nonsense going on, and hopefully we're going to get to the bottom of it. I think that if we look at the things that are going on in the world, you've got the Ukraine and the Russian war going on, and it was interesting to me, again, I mentioned the interview I watched with Tucker Carlson, basically saying that what have we all got against destroying this country of Russia? Nobody wants the Ukraine to be destroyed. Nobody wants Russia to be destroyed. We definitely want peace. But what we do know is that China is actually our biggest problem. The China infiltration, like, they're not hiding it. They're sending big balloons over our countries to have a look at everything. And now China is actually siding with, well, the African leaders of the world and Putin. And there's now, becoming a whole group of them that are joining forces to go against all of us. And we clearly know, China's buying land. China's buying land in Canada. China's buying land in the United States of America, very close to places that have high intelligence that they shouldn't be anywhere near. They want to buy the farms around some of these places that, where they can have a bird's eye view of what's going on in, some of the secret places in the United States of America. And none of this makes sense why anyone would be allowed to do that. Now, what have we done? We have forced Xi Jinping and Putin together. And that's a deadly thing. You take a couple of guys that are a little bit unpredictable and, monstrous egos for sure, want to rule the world, right? And now these two people have been forced together through this world war that seems to be going on. And we've got Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau supporting this initiative with the Ukraine. None of it makes sense. Zelensky, I think he is one of the most egotistical leaders of all time, sitting around in his, tight t-shirts or hoodies, telling the world how they have to support the Ukraine, that it is their duty, that the Ukraine needs all this money. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, inflation at all-time highs. We've got all kinds of problems with money in Canada and the United States. And apparently it's so important with the homeless everywhere. I just recently had a Canadian citizen tell me that he had gone back to his home area. Where did he go? It was either some place in Vietnam or somewhere, but he said the homeless problem was far less there than it is here. And he was saying that in the back of his business, there are homeless people. They're setting up tents. We have tent cities going up, in lots of places in North America and Canada. And I've recently driven down the poorest postal code in Canada, which is right there at Main and Hastings in downtown Vancouver, British Columbia. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homeless people just all up and down those streets. We can't solve our own problems, but we can give billions of dollars to some place we don't even know about. Most of us have never been there. It's unbelievable. All right. So did you know about the Freedom Convoy blacklist, courtesy of the RCMP? So, what is going on with this one, JT? Right. So they've given the information of the people involved in the convoy to foreign banks, from Wall Street to Beijing. And so this is happening. When you talk about a social credit score system and we think that we're kind of safe because we're in Canada, no, not at all. We are all being judged already. And I am having an increasing number of people telling me that their bank has, for some reason, been giving them a hard time, has been requesting more information on things that they're doing. And banks are going to start wanting to know what your social values are. If you are a troublemaker by believing in freedom, if you have been somebody who's come against the government's tyrannical lockdowns and, their mandates on human beings and what human beings have to put into their bodies. If you're one of those people that has, been fighting that, well, maybe you've got a bit of a problem with this bank situation. And so I think it's leading to a lot of troubles. United Australia Party leader, Senator Ralph Babet, gives bombshell revelations on COVID vaccination in Australia. Oh, we might do this one later? Okay, no. Well, maybe we can just quickly do it later. So Margaret Anna Alice reads a poem. We can't do it here because we're not free to talk to you about what's going on. It's so sad. This is an incredible sort of statement by a woman who basically, what she's trying to let you know is this whole thing we've been through, we call it like, a big mistake, so many errors were made. She doesn't think so. She thinks it was quite calculated. Listen to this.
The Armenian genocide was not a mistake. Holodomor was not a mistake. The final solution was not a mistake. The Great Leap Forward was not a mistake. The killing fields were not a mistake. Name your genocide. It was not a mistake. That includes the Great Democide of the 2020s. To imply otherwise is to give them the out they are seeking. It was not botched. It was not bungled. It was not a blunder. It was not incompetence. It was not lack of knowledge. It was not spontaneous mass hysteria. The planning occurred in plain sight. The planning is still occurring in plain sight. The philanthropaths bought the science. The modelers projected the lies. The testers concocted the crisis. The NGOs leased the academics. The scientists fabricated the findings. The mouthpieces spewed the talking points. The organizations declared the emergency. The governments erected the walls. The departments rewrote the rules. The governors quashed the rights. The politicians passed the laws. The bankers installed the control grid. The stooges laundered the money. The DoD placed the orders. The corporations fulfilled the contracts. The regulators approved the solution. The laws shielded the contractors. The agencies ignored the signals. The behemoths consolidated the media. The psychologists crafted the messaging. The propagandists chanted the slogans. The fact chokers smeared the dissidents. The censors silenced the questioners. The jackboots stomped the dissenters. The tyrants summoned, the puppeteers jerked, the puppets danced, the colluders implemented, the doctors ordered, the hospitals administered. The menteciders scripted, the bamboozles bleated, the totalitarianized bullied, the covidians tattled, the parents surrendered, the good citizens believed and forgot. This was calculated, this was formulated, this was focus grouped, this was articulated, this was manufactured, this was falsified, this was coerced, this was inflicted, this was denied. We were terrorized, we were isolated, we were gaslit, we were dehumanized, we were wounded, we were killed. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it.
What an incredible woman. And her name is Margaret Anna Alice. And she basically reads that poem. And it is so amazingly true. That's exactly what's happened, is that everyone collaborated and did their role and did their part to make this whole puzzle work. Was it a mistake with all these people doing their part consistently? I don't know. Unbelievable. I love Rand Paul. You know that. What an amazing man he is in the United States of America. We have very few like him on the planet. And he's actually a former lawyer, now senator. Rand Paul questioning Moderna CEO on royalties paid to the NIH.
Mr. Bancel, Moderna recently paid NIH $400 million. Do you believe it creates a conflict of interest for the government employees who are making money now off of the vaccine to also be dictating the policy about how many times we have to take the vaccine?
Good morning, Senator. Indeed, we recently made, before Christmas last year, a $400 million payment to the NIH for an old patent that they had developed, not related to COVID, but useful in the development of a COVID vaccine to pay them for their work. It's for the US government to assess how that money should be used.
Do you think it creates a conflict of interest for the same people deciding the policy of how often we have to take the vaccine to also be making money the more times we take the vaccine? Yes or no?
This is for the government to decide, Senator.
You have no opinion on whether or not that creates a conflict of interest?
Oh, this is exactly what's happened, isn't it? We've got Anthony Fauci in the middle of all of it, the NIH, the NIAID. Anthony Fauci there, probably getting kickbacks, royalties. We've got this company accepting huge amounts of money while they're trying to tell everyone to still get that safe and effective vaccine. And they want to put this mRNA into all the shots that we're going to be taking. Is that a conflict of interest? I think so. I think so. Shouldn't they figure this out? But my question is, with the justice system such as it is, will there ever be truly justice? You know, we do see that. I'm sure you've heard, so I didn't really make a big deal of it today. But of course, Donald Trump looks like he's not going to be arrested because there never was anything on him that was capable of holding any weight to get him in trouble at all. In fact, that was already decided many years ago. This whole thing just been a bunch of nonsense. But I do think that Donald Trump was very wise in just outing what they were going to do. They were threatening him behind the scenes, so he just put it all out there. You know, this is what they're going to arrest me. And then he watched the outfall of it all, and many people coming forward to give their perspectives and pieces of the evidence that needed to be put out there. People that knew that this fellow that they have that was going to testify against the prime minister, that he's a blazing liar. He's been proven to be a blazing liar. And so, you know, they were able to put that evidence out in advance. And of course, everybody backed down. I think that's been absolutely a blast to watch. This is a very disturbing video coming up, and this is pretty much our last one because we're not going to do that other one, right? We don't want to get in trouble. Okay. UVic professor Rachel Hope Cleaves uses uncommon language to discuss her biography on pedophile writer Norman Douglas. What is happening where we can't call pedophiles pedophiles? Where we're normalizing in our society weirdness and perversion? What is going on? And a few years ago, I remember when there was a young girl and she did a TED Talk, and it was so disturbing in trying to downplay minor attraction. And it was so sickening that, like, it kind of went viral because no one could believe she would even say something like that. I don't know what ever happened to that girl. Never seen her again. But I know it was a huge outpouring of hate and anger at what she had said. But now we've got professors talking crap and trying to normalize something. Our world is just getting very dark. Take a listen.
In writing this book, I didn't want to use pedophile discourse because I felt like it would fail to capture this other historical organizing system for intergenerational sex, which was the topic that I wanted to address. I just felt like contemporary language would have made it impossible, really, for us to reckon with this prior historical system. So I do talk about intergenerational sex. This is to get to this terminology question. This is a contentious term because I think by the standards of our time, we don't see any possibility for sex between adults and children. We see it as rape, right? And not falling within the framework of sex or sexuality. I don't use the discourse of survivors or necessarily abuse to make sense of the sources.
Okay. You know, one of the questions while that was playing that we were kind of discussing in our little studio here while she's talking is, what bearing does what time in history have on true morality? So this is like saying, you know, it's wrong to murder today, but in 300 years it won't be wrong at all. Or it's wrong to murder today, but hey, back in the day, it wasn't wrong at all. You know, everyone was just murdering everyone. And there's, you know, when is the point where morality, the 10 commandments are just the correct way to live, and it's not dependent on the latest generation. It's not dependent on what everyone is doing. An entire city, like Sodom and Gomorrah, let's say, 2 cities could be doing something very, very wrong, and only 5 people think that it is wrong. The rest of the people are just all sold out to their carnality. And does it make it right that in that season everyone thought it was okay? Did it make it right? No. When people are offering their children in a society to the gods and they're sacrificing babies, did that, is that okay because everyone's doing it? Morality and principles should never be based on our season in history. It shouldn't be that, because, well, after all, this is 2023. This is, for Pete's sake, like, what are we thinking, right? No, actually, when you believe in something and you have principles that you live by, that doesn't have to change because society changes. And it's morally evil to sexualize children and to harm them. They don't know what's happening. And there have been many victims who've come forward harmed for a lifetime because of somebody thinking it's okay. It's not okay. At any time, in any way, it's sin, it's evil, it's perversion, and it should be labeled as such by anyone in our society. That's how it should be. So I'm going to show you something that William Mackus has been putting out there, JT. Let me just do a share here. So we're looking at some excess deaths in Canada, and there were some new statistics that have come out regarding excess mortality in Nova Scotia. So the estimated number of excess deaths has varied greatly in 2020, 2021, and January to October of 2022. So it looks like there was less deaths. Is that what that means? Like a minus 105? Right, like compared to the previous year or what they thought, there was like minus 105 deaths from what they expected in 2020 in Nova Scotia. Then in 2021, there was 120 more deaths. But look at 2022. Now, this is only from January to October, 848 excess deaths. Well, we weren't having a huge outbreak of COVID at that time. That was like when everyone was saying, everything's getting back to normal, all of these things. So on March 7th, 2023, CBC article headline reads, Nova Scotia tight-lipped about spike in deaths. Unexpectedly high numbers of people are dying in an untimely fashion. All highly COVID-19 vaccinated countries and jurisdictions are seeing record excess deaths on the order of 1 per 1,000 population in 2022. For instance, USA, 270,000 in 2022. Is that excess deaths that he's basically saying? And the source, he's listed the sources here. In Germany, there's 103,000 in 2022 excess deaths. In the UK, 54,000 in 2022. Japan, 91,000. Australia, 42,000. Alberta, Canada, in 2022, so one tiny province of Alberta, there's been 4,000 excess deaths. From the CBC article, for the first 10 months of 2022, there were 848 more deaths than expected in Nova Scotia. The province said 546 of those were due to COVID-19. That means almost 36% of the deaths are attributable to other causes. Now, let's not forget that when somebody dies of COVID and, the hospitals are calling it a COVID death, it's been very shown that quite often that wasn't. They were put on a respirator, they were given remdesivir, they had no early treatment, and basically had very poor care. Like my father had very poor care in the COVID ward in Surrey Memorial Hospital. CBC News asked the Nova Scotia government what is causing the excess mortality in this province, but did not receive a specific answer. A spokeswoman noted excess mortality represents all deaths, cancer, suicide, heart disease, natural causes, etc., not just COVID-19. but it's unclear what those other causes are. The province declined interview requests with health department officials and the chief medical examiner. The population of Nova Scotia is 971,000. The annualized 2022 excess deaths is 848 in those 10 months. And then out of 12, it turned out to be 1,018. So excess deaths in Canada. According to Statistics Canada, there were 53,741 excess deaths in Canada from March 2020 until the end of August 2022. Provisional data shows there were an estimated 53,741 excess deaths in Canada from the end of March. 7.6% more deaths than expected had been had there not been a pandemic. Then we subtract COVID-19 deaths of 14,642 in 2020, which you know how I feel about that. And we are left with 39,099 deaths since the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines until the end of August 2022. Extrapolate that to end of 2022, and it's about 47,000 deaths, with more of those deaths occurring in 2022. So I am going to leave the rest of it. You need to follow Dr. William Mackis and his Substack. I highly recommend seeing what he's writing. He is very analytical, statistical. He has the data, and he tells it like it is. And he gives you then his opinion on sort of what he would surmise from everything that we're finding out. All right, next, one final thing. So please remember that we will be in Alberta, we'll be in Calgary, Red Deer, and then Vancouver for these events. Can you see that clearly on the share? And you can get your tickets as soon as you can. It's on Facebook, and I think it's going up on our website today. We'll try to get that up there so that you could click the links and get your tickets right away. Join us in Calgary for this amazing lineup. Look at this. That is Pastor Craig Baroker at the far left there. And then there is Dr. Millard, then Dr. Byram Bridle, and Dr. Artis from the United States of America. Pastor Archer Pawlowski will be there. Dr. Naputi, Dr. Mackis, and of course we are going to have Eli, who we love it when he does some singing and brings just a little bit of ambiance and really a powerful presence. So hope that you'll join us then. My website is Laura-Lynn.tv, and thank you very much for all your support, your kindness, all of the good things that are going on. We do highly recommend to you that that you purchase your silver and gold from Sun City Silver. And many of you contacting me, asking me a lot of questions about that. I've been very honest with you that that is something we're doing. We're not taking a lot of chances with having a lot of cash sitting around in the bank. Well, and mainly because we don't have a lot of cash sitting around in the bank. But we like to get it turned over to something that in case that there's the day when something such as the United States has been experiencing in the last 2 weeks, should that happen here in Canada, that we've got some sort of support. Thank you for your kindness. I really appreciate those who are signing up as monthly partners to help us. It's really wonderful. And, if you take $20 or $25, some of you can do more, 50, $100 a month, and you know that you would maybe, spend that going out for dinner on an evening or whatever, but you want to help us to do what we do, to speak the truth every day. It means a lot. It's actually the difference between whether we can do this or not. It's that important. So we appreciate you and we love you. And also, if you'd like to be on my mail out, I have a mail out, then there's a place to sign up for the newsletter so that you will always be able to see what we are doing. I had my Bible Gateway going late into the night last night, and I was able to listen to pretty much the entire book of Acts. Could you hear it, JT? Why? How can you hear it? I have my headset in, but you can hear, right? Okay, funny story. I was listening to Song of Solomon the other night, and the guy is like, I don't know if you know about Song of Solomon, but it's kind of like the sex book of the Bible, right? And here's this guy. He's got a really soothing voice, and he's talking about, it's all about the marriage love, and I thought it was just really bizarre. I didn't really like it. Felt like I was listening to something. I thought that was odd. Anyways, just a moment, but it's really cool to listen to Acts. I think that is cool. When the Acts of the Apostles happened, the whole world changed. Like all of a sudden, it wasn't just the Jewish religion. It was about a Messiah had literally shown up, and some people were being stoned because they believed in the Messiah. Some people were dying for their faith at that time. And Paul, the apostle of Jesus Christ, before he became Paul, he was Saul, and he was killing hundreds of people for their declaration of serving Jesus. And then Saul, of course, becomes Paul the apostle. No one believed him. They thought, oh no, like you're crazy. You were just, you were just hurting people. And the Christians didn't believe him. Like imagine someone's like after you and killing hundreds of your friends, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus as well. Wasn't going over very well. Psalms 45, my heart is stirred by a noble theme. As I recite my verses for the King, my tongue is the pen of a skillful writer. You are the most excellent of men, and your lips have been anointed with grace. Since God has blessed you forever, gird your sword on your side, you mighty one, clothe yourself with splendor and majesty. In your majesty, ride forth victoriously in the cause of truth, humility, and justice. Let your right hand achieve awesome deeds. Let your sharp arrows pierce the hearts of the king's enemies. Let the nations fall beneath your feet. Your throne, O God, will last forever and ever. A scepter of justice will be the scepter of your kingdom. You love righteousness, and you hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has set you above your companions. This entire chapter is really almost like an accolade to a man of God. A man of God who stands, who fights, who loves righteousness because God loves righteousness. This scripture, it's very interesting. Psalms 45. All your robes are fragrant with myrrh and aloes and cassia. I always think you smell so nice, hon. I like that about you. Daughters of kings are among your honored women. At your right hand is the royal bride in gold of Ophir. Listen, daughter, and pay careful attention. I'm not going to have time to read all of the rest of this, but let's just remember that God loves righteousness and he hates wickedness. Good ending, eh? See you tomorrow. It's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.